What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Coventry Racing Podcast. My name is Dylan, and thank you guys for joining in today. Today, we're going to be talking about the Washougal Pro National that just took place this past weekend. We're also going to talk a little bit about all the events kind of leading up to the Washougal National just because of the airline situation with Microsoft going down and everything else. It caused for some very interesting havoc here and there. So let's get into it. First off, very surprising, obviously, I'd say everyone in the country dealing with the Microsoft outage and that whole, I guess, distraught situation that it caused. It really didn't affect me too much, thankfully, but I will say that it was kind of chaotic, obviously, seeing all the airlines going down. They were all just shutting down and stopping all flights and so on and so forth, which makes sense, for safety. But it definitely led to some very interesting situations for a lot of riders. There were several riders that were potentially not going to make it out to the Pro National this past weekend, and one of those was Hayden Deegan. Hayden actually had to use, I believe they said online, I think on Instagram, Hayden went on there and said that he had to use his bonus money from one of his races to help him pay for like a private jet to fly out there. So that would suck. That would really suck. And that would have sucked for him, knowing that he probably would have given up, 50 points on that weekend if he wouldn't have made it. So that would have been a little chaotic. So that was his situation, for example, and I know a few other riders. I believe some other bigger names were having issues as well. So made for a very interesting situation just starting there. And then obviously, getting to this Pro National is one of the most iconic races of the year. A lot of people love Washougal. And then you look at the whole, just the environment that it brings. The fans out there were absolutely chaotic, and it made for kind of an awesome setup for the riders when you look at it with the fans. So I think that was really cool to see. It's not too surprising. It's Washougal. You get that pretty much every year, but this one seemed to be more, enthusiastic than ever. So that was really awesome to see. But now jumping into the races, let's talk about some of the races and some of the riders. One group in particular I want to look at is the 250 class. The 250 class, we're looking at a very interesting situation. Honestly, we've got, oh boy, let's try and think here. How many guys do we think there are? There's at least, I want to say probably 3, maybe 4 guys that can't hardly ride because they're just flat out hurt. Now they're putting in the effort, but they're hurt. One of those guys that I think of is Ty Mashapool. I feel so bad for Ty Mashapool, man. He just had really bad luck. He's just got some bad luck with some things, with crashing and everything else. Last race at Millville, that first turn pileup in Moto 2, like I said last week in Millville, Mashapool went down, got ran over by like 3 or 4 bikes. He's beat up pretty bad. He still managed to come back and do really well at the end of that race last week. Still managed to race this week, but clearly he was tired and was falling back. And I just hope that he still gets a factory opportunity beyond this season, because he's got what it takes. But man, that just sucks. He had no control over that first turn situation last week in that crash. He got ran over by so many bikes, and he's still out there fighting. And same goes for Chance Hymas. Chance Hymas is the same boat, except with his ankle. And it's just one of those things that we have to watch that really hurts and sucks to watch, because there's multiple guys like those guys that are kind of just injured, and they're still just sucking it up and going out there and giving it everything they've got, which props to them. But man, I don't know. That makes for some, hard racing for them. It makes it harder for competition, little things like that. But when you think of the top guys of the 250 class at the moment, though, I'll tell you what, Hayden Deegan, it's like beating a dead horse. The guy is just unreal. Every single week and coming in and out, it's just unbelievable what he's capable of doing. Watching his speed, watching his skill on the bike, it's just all very fun to watch, and it's very obvious that I'd say as long as he stays healthy, he's got the championship in the bag. There shouldn't be any reason for him to lose at this point. And it's pretty obvious that he's got the confidence, so it's all sitting there in his head. with the whole mindset of I can do this, and he does that. So Tom Vial, though, is still very fast. Tom Vial is very fun to watch. Still very skilled on the bike as well. Has some small mistakes here and there, but really not that many. I mean, he's just a good rider, and I think he's doing well. I just don't think that anyone can beat Hayden right now, really. So, with this past weekend, when you're watching the races, Moto 1, Tom Vial looked great, right? And then we hear on the podium that Deegan said, yeah, my bike just doesn't feel right. Something was off. Okay, well, we'll see in Moto 2. Okay, it made sense, Moto 2, that, yeah, something was off on the bike. And it's crazy because most of Moto 1, he kept a 2-second gap away from Tom almost the entire time. Until like the last lap or two, he was just like, whatever, I'm already going to get second. I don't need to push. It's not a big deal. We'll just finish here. And then he goes out and makes a statement in Moto 2 with a 14-second lead on Tom Vial for the win. So it, to me, just shows right there, flat out, he's really, really fast. Even when his bike's not set up right, he can still manage to just hold down a second-place spot and no biggie. So it's just making for some interesting time in this 250 class. Like I said, if some of these other guys weren't injured, I would expect maybe a little bit more of a fight towards the front. But to be fair, Washougal's not really one of those tracks where, tight racing is going to happen. I don't know, from first to fifth place, really, you're not going to see that tight of racing. It's pretty easy to kind of gap each other, and it's really hard to pass on that track. It's very narrow. It's just, there's just certain spots that you got to make something work. There's like a lot of inside-outside lanes, which makes it good and bad, I guess. So, I don't know. It really comes down to the prep of the track at that point. And I'd say the start's pretty important as well. So, really, that's what it just comes down to with first through fifth on that track. You're just not going to get that racing mentality, that bunched up group of racing for like the whole moto. But we did see Joe Shimoda back up there, running strong. Once again, Joe, it's awesome to see you up there and you got the speed, but it's just one of those things. You got to start doing that earlier in the season. So, really surprisingly, this is like the first week in a while that nothing too crazy happened with the 250 class. So, jumping over to the 450 class, I would say that the 450 class is still pretty much where we would expect this to be. Aaron Plessinger's riding great. I'm very happy for Aaron Plessinger. He seems to be doing really, really well. He's really picking up the pace. His speed is great. His mistakes are minimal. Of course, I say that, but obviously Moto 1, he lost that first place spot to his teammate Chase Sexton by stalling the bike. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like a mental game, I think, at that point. And to be honest, Chase has that mental game won. Out of any of the 450 riders at the moment on the field, Chase has that game won. Jason Anderson's been riding really well, as we can see. He's been riding really fast. He looks smooth. Hunter looks fast, but he's making more and more mistakes, which is, I think, because he's just got so much more pressure on him now. There was so much pressure loaded onto him, and I think that's all that it's been. But 450 championship's not over. It's nowhere close to being over. We got 3 rounds left. Anything can happen at those 3 rounds. These guys, yeah, I mean, honestly, we can see anything happen at this point. So it's going to make for a very interesting set of 3 races because, I don't know, I truthfully think that we can see some maybe just really random things happen, honestly. So, but yeah, no, the 450 class, like I said, it's kind of falling into its own place of everyone can kind of just guess and expect where people are going to land. I feel like we would kind of expect that from the class before Jet got hurt, but then again, I don't know. it's all the 450 class has pretty much stayed the same all year. And we're just gonna have to sit here and see where they go next, honestly. I mean, like I said, these next 3 rounds, it's really going to come down to who wants it more and what kind of chaos it's going to, bring to the table. So, 450 Moto 1, Chase just shows that his dominance is there. And then Moto 2, Chase shows his dominance again, flat out. So that's why the 450 class is what it is. But right now, it's just, I don't know. There's not much to it, really. So, yeah, it is good to see, though, that some of these other guys are really building their confidence back up, and they're really starting to speed up here and there. Like I said, Anderson, Plessinger, Sexton, J. Coop is getting there. He's still making some mistakes here and there, but same with Hunter. To be honest, though, we always forget that Hunter and J. Coop are rookies on the 450s, so that's another thing to take to the table. They're doing this well in the 450 class, and it's a rookie season. So we should kind of remember that every time that we're thinking about them or talking about them. So, but yeah, that's really all that we really noticed from Washougal this past week. 2 notable riders of the week. The 250 class, I wanted to pinpoint someone that stood out. I thought that they were riding really, really well, and they just kept popping up. Like, I kept watching their name moving up on the left side of the screen. Dylan Schwartz. Dylan Schwartz for the 250 class. I was very impressed. Felt like I was noticing him up on the screen, moving up a lot, passing guys a lot, and it was pretty cool to see. So, shout out to Dylan Schwartz for that. For the 450 class, who do we think? No, honestly, I was going to say one rider, but I decided I've chosen another. It's actually going to go out to Jason Anderson. Jason Anderson, I think, has earned it this week, landing on the podium, as well as just overall riding really, really well. I felt like Jason Anderson was riding a completely different type of race this weekend compared to what I've seen him run most of this outdoor season, because he hasn't looked like himself until this past weekend. So I got to give a shout out to Jason Anderson for that, and he's the notable rider for the 450 class. So there you guys have it. That is the podcast of the week. Like I said, if you guys want to talk about any other things, just let me know. And thank you again for joining in on this podcast on this beautiful day. As you can tell in this studio here, it's very beautiful outside, right? No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, thank you guys again for listening, and keep watching and subscribe, like, comment, whatever you guys want to do. It don't matter to me. Once again, this is Coventry Racing. My name's Dylan. Thank you.